Welcome to Xi Jinping Briefing. The content of the briefing includes Newsom's big test, China, climate, and human rights. The G20 must become leaner and meaner if it is to stay relevant. China's statecraft and global leadership. China stages charm offensive to pave way for Xi trip. Why global investors keep unloading China stocks. Newsom's big test, China, climate, and human rights. Diplomat. California Governor Gavin Newsom faces two major challenges as he heads to China to discuss climate change with President Xi Jinping. The first is persuading Xi to speed up the transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy, and the second is addressing systematic human rights abuses by the Chinese government, which are a major barrier to progress on climate change. China has made impressive progress in embracing renewable energy, but it remains the world's biggest emitter of greenhouse gases and uses more coal than any other country. Newsom must not shy away from raising human rights concerns during his discussions with Xi. The G20 must become leaner and meaner if it is to stay relevant. Financial Times. The G20 must repurpose itself in order to address pressing global issues effectively, according to a former governor of the Reserve Bank of India. The group should focus on a core agenda of 3 or 4 global issues each year, rather than becoming overloaded with meetings, conferences, and events. The practice of issuing a communiqué should also be abandoned in favor of minutes of the meeting, which would record differences of opinion and indicate a plan of action until the next summit. Finally, politics should be kept out of the G20 to ensure all leaders attend and express their differences. China's statecraft and global leadership. Diplomat. China's statecraft under Xi Jinping is focused on domestic stability and maintaining a peaceful external environment. The regime believes that a stable external environment is crucial for implementing structural reforms and achieving domestic growth, which would ultimately strengthen China's national power and influence. China's emphasis on sovereignty and non-interference in foreign affairs is rooted in historical lessons and the need to maintain control and stability over its vast territory. While China seeks a stable relationship with the United States, it also aims to limit excessive U.S. influence in the region. China has been successful in exerting its influence at times, but its strategic vision is still a work in progress and reactive to international developments. The sudden disappearances of China's defense minister and former foreign minister reflect the centralized authority under Xi Jinping and the need to maintain his leadership and the party's legitimacy. While Xi has handpicked most members of the Politburo, there are still factions and forces within the party that he needs to balance and manage. China's governance model and global leadership are seen as alternatives to shore up support from global South countries, as seen in their participation in China-led initiatives such as the Belt and Road Initiative and the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. The US, EU, and Indo-Pacific allies and partners should engage in dialogue and exchanges with China at all levels to better understand its intentions and determine if Xi's policies can be moderated in his third term. China stages charm offensive to pave way for Xi trip. Wall Street Journal. China is reportedly preparing an American charm offensive ahead of a potential visit by President Xi Jinping to the U.S. next month. While it is uncertain whether Xi will accept President Biden's invitation, China is taking steps to prepare for the visit, which would be Xi's first U.S. trip in over 6 years. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi is expected to visit Washington this week for summit preparation meetings with Secretary of State Antony Blinken. In addition, a delegation of Chinese business, cultural, and sports figures, including basketball star Yao Ming, will be in New York for a series of public engagements. The charm offensive also includes an uptick in academic exchanges and Vice President Han Zheng's efforts to drum up investment into China. China has not confirmed whether Xi will visit the U.S., but there are signs that he may be interested in attending the Leadership Summit of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Grouping in San Francisco next month. Why global investors keep unloading China stocks. Bloomberg. Chinese equities have experienced a $3 trillion equity rout after a year of disappointing economic news and growing U.S.-China tensions. Foreign funds have been steady sellers, which could make it harder for China to raise overseas funds for future growth. Factors contributing to the decline in investor sentiment include trouble in the property sector, local government debt stress, and low trust in the government. China's economic landscape and demographics are also resembling Japan's post-bubble era, leading to concerns of Japanification of Chinese equities. Government efforts to stabilize the market have provided only short-term relief. China's special envoy is on a Middle East mission. Peace is just part of the picture. CNN. China's special envoy to the Middle East, Zhai Jun, recently embarked on a diplomatic tour of the region aimed at promoting peace talks between Israel and Hamas, despite Beijing's refusal to condemn the Palestinian militant group. Experts view the trip as an opportunity for China to tilt the global balance of power further in its favor. China seeks to strengthen its position as a champion of the Arab world and the global South, which has long been sympathetic to the Palestinian cause and dissatisfied with the American-led world order. The diplomatic mission also allows China to demonstrate solidarity with Arab causes and promote its vision of the region, which differs from that of the U.S. China and Russia have taken a position that contrasts with that of the U.S., which has thrown its weight behind Israel. China has not condemned Hamas for its attacks on Israel but has criticized Israel for its retaliation. Experts do not expect China's mediation efforts to be successful, as China lacks experience mediating the long-running conflict and does not have a meaningful political and security presence in the region. Grapes of wrath change to mend bilateral relationship with China. The Sydney Morning Herald. China has announced that it will review its tariffs on Australian wine, marking a positive development in the relationship between the two countries. The decision comes as Australian opposition leader Anthony Albanese prepares to visit China in November to meet with President Xi Jinping and Premier Li Qiang. China imposed a 220% tariff on Australian wine in 2021 as relations between the two nations deteriorated. The move is seen as a sign of warming relations between China and Australia, with China already lifting tariffs on barley and coal earlier this year. Spies bring their China warnings in from the cold. Bloomberg. The heads of the intelligence agencies from the Five Eyes Alliance, US, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, have publicly accused China of engaging in large-scale espionage and theft of intellectual property. The move toward greater transparency by the intelligence agencies reflects efforts to regain public trust and the changing information environment shaped by social media. The primary objective of the public accusations may be to influence public opinion and counter mixed messages from politicians. The alliance is particularly concerned about the potential loss of critical technological know-how to China, which has a clear advantage due to its government's control over the private sector. China rattles foreign firms again with arrests, Foxconn probe. Bloomberg. Chinese authorities have arrested executives and launched investigations into Foxconn Technology Group, Apple's major partner and one of the largest employers in China. Meanwhile, an executive and two former employees of advertising firm WPP have been arrested in China, and a Japanese metals trading company employee has also been detained. China has been criticized for its lack of transparency in its regulatory actions, which has left foreign firms operating in the country uncertain. According to Alicia Garcia Herrero, chief Asia-Pacific economist at Natixis, the government's actions are aimed at the elites and a warning not to dissent. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your resident observer in the 6 Degrees world, bringing you the latest news from around the globe. Today, we discussed California Governor Gavin Newsom's big test in China, the need for the G20 to refocus, China's statecraft and global leadership, China's charm offensive ahead of a potential visit by President Xi Jinping to the U.S., the decline in global investors' confidence in Chinese stocks, China's special envoy's Middle East mission, the warming relations between China and Australia, the Five Eyes Alliance's accusations against China, and China's recent arrests and investigations of foreign firms. Now, let's dive into these stories and analyze them. Governor Newsom faces a daunting task in China, as he must push for climate change action while also addressing human rights abuses. It's a delicate balancing act, but one that is necessary for progress. As for the G20, it's time for them to streamline their agenda and focus on a few key issues each year. Less is more, my friends. China's statecraft under Xi Jinping is all about maintaining stability and control, both domestically and internationally. China's rise as a global leader is a work in progress, but their influence cannot be underestimated. And let's not forget about China's charm offensive ahead of a potential visit by President Xi to the US. They're pulling out all the stops, including sending basketball star Yao Ming. Talk about a slam dunk. On the economic front, Chinese equities have taken a hit, with foreign investors pulling out. This could spell trouble for China's future growth and its ability to attract overseas funds. Meanwhile, China's special envoy to the Middle East is trying to promote peace talks between Israel and Hamas, but experts are skeptical of China's ability to mediate such a complex conflict. As for China-Australia relations, there seems to be a glimmer of hope as China reviews its tariffs on Australian wine. It's a positive step forward, but there's still a long way to go. Lastly, the Five Eyes Alliance is not mincing words when it comes to China's espionage and intellectual property theft. They're bringing their warnings out into the open, hoping to counter mixed messages from politicians and regain public trust. But it's not just words. China's recent actions against foreign firms, including arrests and investigations, are raising concerns about transparency and dissent. So, my dear viewers, what are your thoughts on these stories? Are you concerned about the state of human rights in China? Do you think the G20 needs to refocus? And what about China's charm offensive? I want to hear from you. Let's keep the conversation going. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.